medical unit for the veterans in Carrizo Springs and the area over here. We at the VA Texas Valley Coastal Bend Healthcare System are increasing access to care for our veterans, and we're bringing these services closer to our veterans' homes. And we're doing this thanks to the partnership that we have, such as the one here in Carrizo Springs. This coordinated effort would not be possible without the cooperation of people like Ms. Paula Seidel, the manager for the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Chris Castañeda, who I believe we're waiting for right now. He's the city manager, and your veteran service officer, Mr. Jeff Davis, right over there. We also have the pleasure of having with us today your mayor, Mr. Oscar Puente. So our program is very short today, so we're going to get right on it. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce again our distinguished guest, again starting with your city mayor, Mr. Oscar Puente, your Chamber of Commerce manager, Ms. Paula Seidel, and your Dimmit County Veteran Service Officer, Mr. Davis. Again, we're still waiting for Mr. Castañeda, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And from our side, we also have our executive leadership team here right now. Our director, Mr. Romero Martinez III. We have our chief of staff, Dr. Jennifer Wood, and our nurse executive, Ms. Manuela Perales. Okay. There's another gentleman here right now that I want to recognize who put a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, and a lot of data analysis to make this a reality. We could not have done this without the efforts of Mr. Jose Ness over here.
Right.
Jose, thank you for having these efforts over here, okay? There's another gentleman that's not here today. He's the program coordinator, Mr. Bobby Domansky, but I have to mention him as well because he put a lot of work into this too. And then, of course, I want to go ahead and introduce the team that you're going to see here on a weekly basis that's going to be manning the mobile medical unit whenever they come to Carrizo Springs, okay? And we have with us today your registered nurse, Ms. Taylor Barraclaw. She's the nurse. She's going to be here today. Her backup is Michelle Delgado. She's not only the backup, but she's also training Ms. Barraclaw on this right now, okay? We have an audiologist, Mr. Dr. Chandrasekhar Heipu. He's over there right now. Your driver, Mr. Emmanuel Daly. And then one of the services that you're going to hear more about is telehealth services, virtual care. And for that, we also have a telehealth coordinator with telehealth tech with us, Ms. Angela Gonzalez. And she's right over there. Okay. So as I said before, we have a very short program. So at this time, I ask your mayor, Mr. Puente, if you'd like to come up and say a few words to the audience, please, sir.
Sir, do you mind if I look at it? Because you're getting feedback and...
Sure.
I'm just going to look at it real quick.
You got it, sir.
Okay. There you go.
Hello everybody, and good morning, and welcome to Carrizo Springs. On behalf of the city of Carrizo Springs, I'd like to say that this is something that's greatly needed in Carrizo Springs, something to serve our veterans. I know that personally I have a tenant, a veteran, Marine Corps, and he has to do a number of trips to Laredo, San Antonio, quite a bit. And I'll see some veterans here that I know, but we gotta get the message across that this will be available to them, which is, like I said, something that's badly needed, especially out in the rural communities like Carrizo Springs. So on behalf of the city, again, on behalf of the city, thank you for providing this service, and we'll make sure we get the word out to our veterans that this is something that's available to them. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Puente. Ms. Seidel, would you like to come up and say a few words to the audience, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, and I am so glad that you are here. So thankful that you could be part of this program. The Chamber of Commerce has always been an advocate for veterans, and it will continue to be so as long as the directors allow us to do programs for them. We are proud that every year in March, we do a luncheon for the Texas Vietnam Veterans Memorial Riders. We have been privileged because the city allows us to use this facility to do their lunch. They come here on their trip down to the valley. They start in North Texas, near the Oklahoma border, and ride all the way down to Brownsville, because Highway 83 is the Texas Vietnam Memorial Highway. We do the Veterans events, the Memorial Day, and we also do the actual Veterans Day events. And again, it's because of the fact that we have partnered with both the county and the city to allow this. And as long as I am manager of that Chamber of Commerce, veterans will be first. Because when I was talking to that gentleman back there, veteran lives matter, and they matter a lot. Thank you for your service, for those that you have served. Thank you for the families who support your veterans. Thank you for the city. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, would you be so kind as to come up and say a few words, please, sir?
Well, it's great that something like this is finally available for us veterans that are in these rural communities, instead of having to travel hours and hours on end. This is something that's been in a long time needed. We finally have it. We need to make sure that we utilize it to show that it is justified. And other rural communities can get the idea and say, hey, let's do that for our area. So, you keep hearing the veteran service officer. That's what I am here in Dimmit County for us. What we do is we advocate for you and help you get through the bureaucratic side of the VA to get things started for you. So we are your first advocate to come into that. So if there's questions that you have about benefits, that's what we're here to help you with. So it's great that we're seeing a lot of us here, a lot of us local veterans. Let's make sure that this is a good, successful program.
All right, folks, so a couple of things before I introduce our distinguished speaker this morning. Would all VA staff please rise? Okay, folks, I wanted you to be aware of how many of us are here today. This is how important this mission is to us here at Valley Coastal Bend, to provide access to care to our veterans in our entire catchment area. And we realize that the veterans in the rural areas such as this one have been neglected somewhat. So this is the reason why we're bringing these services closer to their homes now, okay? Thank you guys, please have a seat, thank you. One last thing, I want to let our veterans that are in the audience know that after we do the ribbon cutting today, we're gonna have a flu vaccination clinic. So all the veterans that are in the audience that have not gotten their flu vaccine, we're gonna have that available to you in the mobile medical unit, okay? All right, so with that being said, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker this morning. This gentleman is originally from the Valley. He was from La Feria, Texas. He spent 20 years in the Air Force, retired as a major. And I'm proud to say that during our active duty time, our paths did cross while we were in recruiting service, both of us. So without further ado, the director of the VA Texas Valley Coastal Bend Healthcare System, Mr. Homero Martinez III.
Yes, our paths did cross. That's pretty cool. Definitely a small world, right? When you're in the military and you come across so many dedicated members of the military and their families, that's really important. Thank you for that. I also want to thank the city of Coviso Springs and for giving us the opportunity to come out here and show exactly what the Veterans Health Administration can offer. As Hugo mentioned, I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I did retire as a major. It doesn't mean I didn't get in trouble, but I spent a large portion of that. A large portion of that is enlisted, so 9 years enlisted and 11 as an officer. When I retired, I moved back to the Valley, and I can tell you my first experience with, I'm trying to, so my My first experience with the VA was in 2001 when my uncle called me and I was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base. He said, hey, I need a ride to the VA. And I'm like, why do you need a ride to the VA? He explained to me, he's like, I'm going to have a procedure there and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, no problem. So I picked him up, took him to the VA, and I was really scratching my head trying to figure out why is he traveling all the way to San Antonio for care, for something that's pretty general, that he could probably get there in the Valley, or what's the VA doing to offer the services in the Valley? Fast forward, moving to where we're at today. I joined the VA in December 2014, and I can see now what was happening. At the time that I joined, we had 628 employees, full-time employees working in the coastal Bend area. We did have a deficit in terms of overall budget, but the veterans population kept increasing in terms of the number of veterans that we had to serve. So it was a very challenging times for all of us there to try to figure out exactly what we need to do to turn the tide. I came on board as the chief financial officer and then eventually became the director. We started working into other areas to eventually become the director. And today we have over 1,500 members on our staff. We do have a surplus in funding, but really what we have to look at is how can we establish core competencies and be able to provide care to veterans in the rural communities. One of our catchment areas is Eagle Pass, right? And we have a clinic in Laredo. And the interesting piece about Eagle Pass and Carrizo Springs is right there on the border between areas of responsibility. So Audie Murphy has a responsibility, and so does Valley Coastal Bend. So we had to figure out a way, and with Mrs. help, on how we can build a business case to go and reach those rural veterans, and that's through the use of the MMU, mobile medical unit. This was presented at an executive level conference in Chicago by Mr. Mesa. It was also presented to the Secretary of the VA about a month and a half ago. And the Secretary was really impressed. He was like, wow, this is really interesting because traditionally the mobile medical units are used in times of natural disasters or emergencies. It's like, but it's never really been used to take care out into the rural communities. And well, I grew up in a rural community, as who had mentioned, La Feria. I grew up in a colonia. We were talking about what the definition of a colonia was. So we're like, this is what a colonia is. So Ms. Morales, she's our nurse executive. She came up from humble beginnings as well. So did Dr. Wood. They're all from the local area, but I told Ms. Morales, says, did you grow up in a colonia? She was like, define to me what a colonia is. And I said, well, we had no running water. It was a little well water. We had no sewage, you have this little community, everybody's helping each other out. And she's like, no, I grew up it was in the hood, but in the city. I think those are not the exact words. So hood can be defined many ways. Long story short, we can resonate with what's happening in these smaller towns. And we can resonate, with the care that's much needed. I have several family members that are veterans. I have cousins that are still active duty, a bunch of friends that are in the military, and I can tell you there's a lot of services that we need to continue to offer for our veterans and their families. And it's much needed, and they need to have it because they've served this country and paid, so much, sacrificed so much. So we as a country are always going to be here to make sure we're providing that. As who had mentioned, the intent of the unit is to come out once a week. We're going to look at starting establishing a schedule. We wanted to come out here today to kind of show you what the unit looks like so y'all can take a tour of it. We are going to have a provider that's going to be here in the near future as well to support the unit, and they're already here now. And then just kind of talk with some of the staff that are going to be manning that. And we couldn't do this without your help and your dedication and your commitment to that mission. This is a tough one because you're on the road a lot, but it's an important one. And I just wanted to again thank y'all for allowing me the opportunity to come out here. I apologize for being late. I'm a stickler when it comes to that, but I didn't realize that we have one road. That, I was waiting for 20 minutes. I'm like, what? 20 minutes? And so I don't want to be late. And but it is what it is. But I'm glad we're here now. With that said, I'd like to introduce the executive leadership team who wants to share some words as well about our programs and what we have to offer and just the healthcare system in general. Again, but thank you all so much for your time, and we look forward to having future discussions about the unit. Thank you.
Dr. Wood, would you please like to come up? Thank you, ma'am. She's from Sinton, Texas, by the way.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Doctor.
Thank you. Well, it's our pleasure to be here this morning. And again, I just want to say thank you to each of you. Thank you to our veterans in the audience. Thank you to your family members. Thank you to the city of Carrizo and all the folks that have come together to help form this partnership to care for our veterans. No one entity can do that alone. It truly takes a network of folks that have care and compassion and honor for our veterans to come together to provide the full spectrum of care that our veterans have earned. So thank you for that. We could not do this without you all making this possible for us. As was mentioned earlier, mobile units are typically used for emergency response. This is the first of its kind in the nation where a mobile unit is used to deliver primary care services on a recurring basis. It's a primary care clinic on wheels for the most part. So that's what our veterans can expect to receive from this unit. Primary care services, if they're currently assigned to a primary care team at the Laredo Clinic, for example, you have the opportunity to switch to your primary care team being on the mobile unit. As was mentioned, the mobile unit will be here on a recurring basis, so there'll be that regular routine availability for contact. In addition to primary care services, we are also building in some specialty care into the mobile unit. So this unit's unique in that the back side of it is an audiology unit. There's an actual audiology booth. So folks who need to come in for hearing issues, hearing aid repair, or evaluation can come to the unit for that as well. And we recognize that that's an area of high need amongst our veterans. It was mentioned about access. The traditional model of healthcare requires people to travel to a brick and mortar clinic. This unit allows us to bring care to you, rather than you having to come to us. We recognize in this day and age, people may have all types of barriers to receiving healthcare, whether that's transportation, socioeconomic factors that make it difficult to access care. Our hope is that the MMU can transcend and negate those barriers to allow you access to high quality care, again, that you've earned. So it's really our pleasure to be able to do this. It's an innovative project. We hope that and expect that it'll be a great success. We know the need is there. So, your partnership is also appreciated in spreading the word about the unit, and it's available for veterans. Initially, we'll start out by looking at veterans in this area who are already enrolled in receiving our care. We'll be reaching out to them to let them know the mobile unit will be in their area. So it's not only for those that live in the Carrizo Springs area, but also the surrounding areas as well. We're able to identify those veterans because they're currently using our care, either traveling to Laredo or perhaps another facility. We're going to outreach to them, let them know the mobile unit is now coming to their city, their town, and inquiring about whether they want to change their care to the unit. For veterans that may not be enrolled with us, they can present themselves and we can go through the enrollment process with them. We know that there are folks in the community that may not be using the VA right now for one reason, benefit that you have earned. And we have the resources and the ability to take care of those veterans. So we don't ever want anyone to feel like, I don't want to use the VA because I'm taking the place of another person who might need it more than I do. That's not a concern. We have the ability to do it and we stand ready to serve. So we want all veterans who qualify for health care to utilize that health care. So please, your assistance in spreading the word about the mobile unit is greatly appreciated. We know in communities, oftentimes it's word of mouth. It's, hey, I know my neighbor might be able to use this, or I have a cousin or a family member that may be able to use this. So please, join with us in helping to spread the word about it as well. Telehealth was talked about. So initially, the unit will focus on delivering primary care services as well as audiology. But we hope to expand that to other specialty services. So for example, if you're traveling to another VA clinic, or maybe even to the community right now to see, for example, a cardiologist, and you've established your care, and now you need some follow-up appointments. If those follow-ups don't require a hands-on exam, then our cardiologist could provide that appointment through telemedicine to the mobile unit, so you don't have to drive into a clinic. So we're going to be keeping our eye closely on those areas of need to see what else we can do to expand your access to specialty medicine providers as well. So that's a future goal that we have for the mobile unit. So again, we are just very excited to have the honor of coming to your community. Thank you for having such a warm reception and welcome for us. Please join us in spreading the word about the mobile unit. We are just delighted to be here and hope that this can help expand access to quality health care for all veterans in the Carrizo Springs area and the surrounding communities. So again, thank you. It's our pleasure to be here, and we look forward to great things to come.
I'm this year and being able to use the mobile unit. One of my greatest satisfactions working at the VA is being able to provide these types of services and advocating for all veterans. I do have family members that are veterans, and they are very lucky to be able to live close to a clinic. But I do know that there are many veterans out here in the rural area that will benefit from this service. As a nurse executive, a lot of different supportive services fall under my purview. So my goal is to ensure that all the services work very closely with the providers who will be in the mobile medical unit, and that includes the telehealth, nursing, who will be providing a lot of care with a physician or a nurse practitioner. So that being said, I'm very excited to get this going. And like the director said, I am from very humble beginnings. No, I didn't grow up in Apollonia, but I was a migrant. I was a migrant worker, and I was born in Mexico, a naturalized citizen. And I really enjoyed working for the VA, and I've been able to lend up myself and my services to the veterans. So thank you for having us here, and to all the leadership and our BSO as well. Thank you so much.
I put clips on it this time. So the director yeah, everybody get. We need some folks over here.